Yesterday was the feast day of St. Joachim and St. Anne, the parents of Mary. And the situation developed, and what was revealed to them threw them into quite some turmoil and challenged them very deeply. Let's reflect on that in the light of mission. This is Mission Alive. This is Roger from the MSC Mission Office. Seems to be strange events were going on at that time for these people. Firstly, the revelation to Joachim that his wife would have a child as an old woman. Now this is quite remarkable and quite an event, because for a woman not to bear a child in those times, in that culture, was a thing to be ashamed of. And that Anna would now bear a child was big news. However, there was also the revelation that this child wouldn't be just an ordinary child. There was something special. And then Mary arrives with her news. And for her too, the whole thing of the angel Gabriel appearing, however that apparition was, whether it was something external or whether it was something internal in her thoughts or in her heart, however that revelation was, because it was even more astounding for her, because she hadn't had any relationships with any man, particularly with Joseph, even though they were betrothed. So for her to have a child like that would be a big shame, and shame on the family and everybody. So all this news coming threw the whole lot of them into turmoil. Joseph also, he was in turmoil to say, goodness gracious me, what do I do? And we know the stories quite well. But the thing is, they were called to this, to be the parents of these two sons, to be parents to whatever these sons were going to be and to do. They were called in faith to respond and to say yes, and to go with the flow, if you like, to take on this responsibility. So there was a great need for discernment in faith to try and understand what it was that God was saying and what it was that God wanted of them. So discernment is a key here, to listen carefully to God and to discern. And probably in that there would have been some discussion. I'm sure Mary and Joseph would have discussed the matter. I'm sure Joachim and Anna would have discussed the matter. How much wider, we don't know. Now, this is a fact of life. We are all called to discern many things in our life, all through our life. From time to time, there is something to be discerned, and particularly now in this time of COVID, there is much to be discerned about how we live and how we act. And this is a call and a challenge to us. And it's a challenge in faith to us in church at this time, to say, how do we live now? What is God calling us to now? How do we live with each other and for each other, even though we're apart? And this has been the history of the mission in the church. In the history of the church in particular places, and I think back to Papua New Guinea, there were decisions to be made, discernment to be undertaken, and then actions to be taken. This is the way of life, and this is the way of mission. When the French priests arrived at Yule Island, 1885, on the coast, the London Missionary Society was well established in those villages. So what to do? They were sent to evangelise these people, and yet these other people were there evangelising already. So they made a decision to go inland. And there they found a huge population of people that were untouched. So there is need for discernment in all of these things, individually and as a community. And as I've said before, with discernment, I've seen in Papua New Guinea villages of people, whole groups of people, discerning what to do. They sit around in the village, some of them on platforms, some of them on the steps of houses, some of them here, some of them there, some of them on the ground. And there's discussion, and different ones speak. And everybody nods their head and scratches their head and There's a lot of little discussions going on, and this is a process of discernment. And then depending on the matter, depending on the process, a decision is made, and then the people follow it. So this discernment seen in St. Joachim and St. Anne and in Mary and Joseph at this time is part of how we go ahead, part of the mission of the church. I hope you are going well in the discernment that is necessary for us today. Let us pray for each other in that. Thank you.